This meeting started. I'll call the Thursday, November 12th regular school board meeting of 717 to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call for attendance, please.
Deb Pauley.
Here.
Tom Vogel.
Here.
Sandy Burke.
Here.
Connie Hennon.
Here.
Lauren Pedersen.
Here.
Rob Langheim.
Here.
Ryan Daner.
Here.
Thank you. Hope nobody indicated that they submitted a request to speak, did they? Okay. So next I'll have a consideration of the agenda. I don't believe there's any changes to the agenda. Do you have anything, Renee?
No, I do not, Deb.
Okay, so then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Motion to approve the agenda as published.
Okay, I have Lauren. Is there a second?
This is Sandy, second.
Sandy seconds. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Deb Pauley.
Yes.
Tom Vogel.
Yes.
Sandy Burke.
Yes.
Connie Hennon.
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen.
Yes.
Rob Langheim.
Yes.
Ryan Daner.
Yes.
Motion carries. Consent agenda, we have the minutes from the October 26th special and workshop meeting. October financials, we have a $1,000 donation from the Kopp family for student fees and field trips. We have a $100 donation from Gary Shuttles for Food for Friends, and a $45 donation from Mighty Cause for the food shelf. We have a new hire, middle school cook Brenda Jensen, and middle school cook helper Christy Wessel. Brenda's comes in at grade 2, step 1, Christy at grade 2, step 2. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent.
Motion to approve.
Second. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Deb Pauley.
Yes.
Tom Vogel.
Yes.
Sandy Burke.
Yes.
Connie Hennon.
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen.
Yes.
Rob Langheim.
Yes.
Ryan Daner.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, review and act on the FY20 food services fund transfer. I believe that's Amy?
So, for the fiscal year ending FY20, our food service department operated in the negative, which is not normal, but because of COVID, there was a loss of revenue. Even though the district did receive revenue for free meals, we still had to pay staff, and we lost a lot of revenue just from not being able to, charge the meals, and then also with a la carte items. So I am requesting to have a fund transfer from our LTFM account in the amount of $24,622.99. And this is allowable to transfer out of LTFM for fiscal years 20 and 21 because of COVID reasons. And even after I do the transfer, we will have about a $12,000 remaining positive fund balance in the LTFM account. And so I'm asking for your approval to have these funds transferred.
Questions? Do you feel that the 12,000 is enough of a cushion to protect us?
For LTFM, yes. We have a pretty substantial amount of revenue coming in. We are not doing as many projects as projected for this reason, because we can if need be, we can transfer to other funds at the end of fiscal year 21.
Is there any indication that there'll be funding to help alleviate some of these issues, specifically with food service at any point?
I don't know about for food service. I know that it has been talked in the legislature that they're going to give districts our enrollment of, like, in fiscal year 19 or even in fiscal year 20, because so many schools have dropped in enrollment for fiscal year 21. So they're going to leave the enrollment, like the ADMs, the same. That's what's in legislation. So I hope that passes. But like, even for right now, we're not the only districts that are struggling, and I believe food services are struggling all over, because like now, we might not be delivering as many meals as we did in the spring. And
And that's, I guess that's where I'm trying to get at with my question is there a risk, is there any risk that we fix the deficit and then, the Department of Ed comes through and says like, we're gonna fund, we're gonna reimburse you for your deficit or something like that, and because of the shift, we lose out on that?
I don't believe that they'll do it for fiscal year 20. So we are covering the negative for 21, or for fiscal year 20.
Okay.
I don't believe that they're gonna give us any more funds for fiscal year 20.
And is there a reason why we would do it now and versus waiting until the end of the budget cycle?
I wanted to wait, but MDE said that we couldn't wait. We either had to fix this deficit, or we have to submit a 3-year plan.
Okay,
And that's one of the reasons why we're doing it now.
thank you.
Could
Yeah.
you clarify, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Connie.
Could you clarify why you said something with à la carte? Why would à la carte?
Well, because I just ran a couple of reports, like from our Infinite Campus, and even like from March to June of the previous year, there's a lot of sales that goes on. And now last year, when COVID hit, we weren't able to sell any. All we could do was deliver the free meals and get that, so we lost a lot of revenue that way as well.
So will this shift also be part of the audit then? Will that
Yes.
change? Okay.
Yep, and my hopes is to get all the paperwork submitted to MDE or tomorrow or Monday morning, and then I'll do the entries, and then our auditors are aware of this, and they've already taken it into account.
Okay. Okay, more questions? If not, did you have a question, Lauren?
No,
Okay,
you guys basically asked the same questions I was thinking, so.
okay. Then I'll look for, entertain a motion to approve the food service fund transfer in the amount of, what was it, 28?
$24,622.99.
Motion to approve the $24,698.99 to move from the LTMF to the food services
Yep.
to negate the negative balance.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ryan. Further discussion or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Tom Vogel,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Ryan Dainert.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
And then you're here for the next one. It's the FY 19-20 audit update. This is not an action item. This is just
Nope.
informational only.
Yep, I just wanted to give you just a really quick and brief overview of where we're going to end up, or projected to end up with our audit, because it will be presented at the December meeting. So the audit is in the final stages, except for the food service entry, which they know about. Our district auditor, Blake Bode, will be here on the December 14th meeting, and the information on the following slides is very preliminary. So for our fiscal year 2020 enrollment was 1,891.63 ADMs. So we did the budget for 1,887, which, a slight increase of 4.63 adjusted ADMs. So the students served were 1,843. We had 23 EC students and 24 tuition students, meaning that they were our residents, but they were serviced somewhere else at a different district. So the final adjusted ADMs is a decrease of 5.28 adjusted ADMs from the prior year.
So, quick question, Amy.
Yep,
Is that okay if I do it during?
yep.
So if the legislature does approve the hold harmless cause, then we would get revenue for the 1887 next year?
We would actually get the revenue for the 1891,
Okay.
because that's our total adjusted ADMs.
Okay, thank you.
So our general fund revenue for fiscal year 2020 was $21,118,345. It was an increase of $114,000 than projected. Our general fund expenditures were $21,540,000. It was an increase of $48,000, but that also includes the entry that I will have to make for food service. Because when I do the entry for food service, I have to hit a revenue account in Fund 2 and an expenditure account in Fund 1. So we overexpended by $421,993, which is, when I did the projection, it was $487,000. So we're a little better than what I projected. And then when we do that, when the auditors present it, the general fund will also include numbers from the student activity account. Okay. So our unassigned fund balance at June 30th, 2020 is projected to be about $1.866 million. Our fund balance is probably about 9%, and our policy is 12%. So we're a little bit better than what I projected, but could always be a little better. And the following are just a couple of the restricted fund balances. So you'll see operating capital, basic skills, and what our LTFM is going to be: medical assistance, staff development, and safe schools. So for food service, we had revenues of $935,139, and we had expenditures of $948,103. So we overspent by $12,964. And all of this was basically from the COVID, how it impacted both the revenue and the expenditures. So the food service balance at June 30th, 2020 will be zero. And that's after the fund balance transfer using the LTFM dollars.
So, how did we do on collecting with that company that we used to collect on,
You mean like advantage?
unpaid?
Yep. We do fairly well. We didn't have to send many people to, we
Okay.
always have to send some, but I think that we kind of halted that when COVID hit.
Sure.
Because we didn't want to impact any families that way. Okay. Community education. So our community ed revenues were $1,381,448. Our expenditures were $1,470,437. So we overexpended by $88,989.40. Again, that's because the COVID impact of the classes, the CERC memberships, the free daycare, but overall, the community education fund balance is $259,550. So the community ed restricted is a negative, but the state allows us to be in the negative there. And ECFE has a balance of $46,000. School readiness is $270,000, and the community ed restricted reserved is about $58,000.
How much did we spend in the free care for those first responders, or was that reimbursed at
No.
all? So what is that usually, what's that costing the district approximately?
I would have to look. Because we did the free daycare, we could only pay for before school and after school, but we still had to pay for staff all day, which we did cover it a lot with our paras and some other staff. The community ed, because we were able to do summer daycare, we brought a lot of revenue in June, which helped the community education program a lot. As to your question, I would have to look that up, which I can.
Okay. I guess what I'm looking for, though, is just the total cost, not the net, whatever the net
Yep.
is. I want the total cost of what that programming cost that the district was required by the governor to cover.
Okay, yep, I can get you that number. So overall, the audit was done virtually, which is different. Our scanning prices went through the roof now. Everything was uploaded to their portal. The audit was done very different from the past, but I felt it went pretty smoothly. It's in final review, and it'll be presented on December 14th. So items going forward, things that I'm concerned about is our enrollment is always challenging. The food service, we are going to develop a plan for moving ahead. I will try to bring the budget revision for fiscal year 2020 and 21, hopefully in February, and just the ongoing additional expenses due to the COVID pandemic. Any questions?
Any other questions for Amy?
Okay,
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
you bet.
Okay, review and act on the resolution canvassing returns on the votes on the votes of the school board election. And this is an action item, so this is, routine thing that we have to do after every election, and in your packet, it showed all the voting data, which I always find quite interesting. And so we have a motion to approve, let's see, where's the resolution? You have it up there, Hope? Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 717 as follows. It's hereby found, determined, and declared that the election of the voters of the district held November 3rd, 2020 was in all respects duly and legally called and held. As specified in the attached abstract of votes cast, a total of 12,200 voters of the district voted as said election. This number included 5,326 absentee votes. And school board members, 3 board vacancies with terms expiring on 12/31/24 were voted on as follows. Candidates B, C, and D, having received the highest number of votes, are elected to a term beginning on the first Monday of January 2021. So that would be Sarah Lane and Molly Moignac and Lauren Patterson. The school district clerk is hereby authorized to certify the results of the election to the office of the Secretary of State and county auditor of each county in which the school district is located, in whole or in part. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve.
Tom, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Connie. Okay, any discussion? It certainly was a close election, and I just want to thank everybody that ran. It takes a lot of courage to run for public office nowadays, so I just want to thank everybody that ran. And roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Tom Vogel,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Ryan Dahnert.
Yes.
Motion carries. On to the learning model update, and this again is not an action item, it's just a discussion item. We had passed a resolution in August giving Renee and the administration the authority to move on this. So I will turn this over to Superintendent Evenson.
Good evening, Chair Polly, members of the board, Jordan community. We come with you tonight to provide an update on our learning model. As you can imagine, we are monitoring daily with the COVID crisis, monitoring our staff and students, and always keeping health and safety of our school community in the forefront. We have a presentation this evening to provide an update to all of you on our safe learning plan. And since Hope, I am remote this evening, I will say next when I'm ready to go to the next slide. So Hope, next, we can go to slide 2.
Okay.
So earlier this summer, we came to the board with an update on the safe learning plan, and this really came from the executive order from Governor Walz at that time, and it really was the framework for the ongoing decision making that needs to happen in school districts, and really about each school district's ability to implement the required mitigation best practices for their schools. Next. We have an ongoing team. Each time I come to the board with an update, I think it's important for me to just to remind our community and remind the board that we have a comprehensive group that is looking at the data, providing input and feedback, and really just core to the planning as we move forward. We have representation at the district level from all departments. We have site level leadership involved with our union teachers, union leaders, classroom teachers. We have expanded feedback through other committees, and we have board members that are also involved in this team. We meet every week on Fridays. This week we met on a Thursday, and then as needed as well. This is the group that connects with the regional support team to get input and feedback as well, and it is an important group for our process. Next. I always like to start with our core values. We commit to make every effort to provide that quality education here in Jordan and to promote wellness practices and implement protocols just to make sure we're maintaining the health and safety of all of our staff and students. And that commitment is strong, and I believe that it's essential to everything that we do as we're making decisions. Next. So back in August, we came forward with what was called the base learning model. And we used data at that time. We all started with the county number. And that county number, has changed quite a bit, of course, since this summer. But that was what we were directed to use to establish that base learning model across all of our school districts in the state of Minnesota. Next. At that time, Jordan's base learning model, we decided to go with the hybrid model. That ended up being slightly more restrictive than we needed to be. I think we spent 5 weeks where we could have been less restrictive, but we felt that it was very important for us in process moving forward that, we started out with a strong hybrid model. Erin is going to jump in here and describe what that base learning model has looked like for us.
So our base learning model to start the year was that hybrid, but we did have that permission where we were allowed to do an in-person hybrid model, K6. So we, using all the COVID mitigation strategies, did have our K6 on site every single day, and then the AB rotation for 7 through 12. And that was based on our numbers at the time, and then also further conversations with MDE. Sorry. And then as we were looking at all these models, the important thing to consider, and this was discussed at our last meeting as well, that we can choose to implement those strategies more restrictive, but if we do want to go less restrictive, we have to do that only with permission. So we do have to consult the regional support teams for that guidance. And that it has to be equitable no matter what kind of model that we are in. Next. The big term that's been used throughout all of this is just that scalpel approach. MDE has really used this as we're determining our base model and whether or not we should shift our learning models. It's really looking at all of the data. So looking at the community data, school level impact on COVID on a regular basis. And like Renee already mentioned, we do have these weekly updates, these weekly meetings as a team going over that data. And as we use the data, there's really strict guidance on how that needs to be moving forward. And of course, we have a lot of the decision-making partners. We have our districts, JPS incident response team, the Scott County Public Health team, the regional support team. Renee meets with superintendents weekly to discuss this guidance. So it is really all together looking at the data to make the next decision. And also, it's more than just the data. It's also looking at the staffing needs and abilities as we're talking about the scalpel approach. Can we staff our buildings safely and appropriately? What does our operations look like? Transportation? What is MDE and MDH saying? Contact tracing? What is our population? And can we control the social distancing within this space? So all of this has been a part of that scalpel approach that helps the team make those decisions on the learning model.
All right, next Chad is going to dive into some of the data.
All right, Hope, are you on the
I'm on 11.
Yep, slide 11, thank you. So as we started out the school year, you can see that our numbers were sitting around that low area of the hybrid in-person type numbers for the elementary school. And as it kind of stayed solid for the first month of school in the mid to low 20s, since the October and into now, we've seen such a gigantic increase and large increase in our positive cases. So again, this is Scott County local data, and it's important to remember that we have double or more than double of our number of tests now in the state, but we are getting a lot more positive cases in Scott County based upon those test results provided by our medical doctors. Any questions on this slide?
Chad, we're going to do questions at the end.
Okay, sorry. The next. This is a slide that just shows the cases per 10,000. So as you see, again, from the start of the school year and until now, it just shows that the trend has increased up. So again, it shows that we're in the 20s, and now that we are, as of 10/25 to 11/7, we are at that 105.81 cases per 10,000. Next. Here is the city of Jordan data. So as we look at the city of Jordan data, based on the last population of around 6,500 people in Jordan, and with a 2-week data case rate from October 25th to November 7th, we currently have 97 positive cases in Jordan, and our current 2-week case rate is 177.3 cases per 10,000. Next. On our dashboard, as of 11/2 to 11/8, we had 6 new student confirmed cases. We have a cumulative of 18 confirmed cases since the start of the school year, and we have 223 students in quarantine. It's important to remember that our numbers have increased since then, and that we will be updating this as we move into towards the end of the week. Next. Staff, we had 2 confirmed new cases in the week of November 2nd through November 8th. We have a cumulative staff of 7 confirmed cases, and 21 staff have been out in quarantine at that time. And next, community spread impacts.
I'll take the next slide, Chad. So that community spread impacts that Chad has described, that the high number within Scott County, that high number within Jordan. One of the things that we've been able to say so far is that we have not found school spread, up until this point, but the community spread has really started to impact us in our operations. It impacts our instruction and our ability to do instruction with the number of staff and students on quarantine. There are class size impacts, if we have to combine sections, and the challenges we need to keep that 6 feet social distancing and all of those components in place. We've had to reduce and cancel classes and programming at all of our sites. And we just don't have the sub pool to provide that coverage. It's a very similar story on the operations side of things. I know the last time we met as a board, we were talking about a school district down the road that had to cancel school for the next day because they didn't have a kitchen staff to be able to feed the students that they have. And that happens. And with the quarantine of staff and staffing resources, to ensure that health and safety measures are met, it becomes a challenge when we have custodians out and we don't have the subs for that. Staffing used in investigative processes, the amount of time I know that our principals and Chad and our school nurses are contact tracing, I think people would be surprised. And then the lack of subpool coverage there. I have Ben and Melissa and Jeff as well to speak to some of the impact on staffing, and I'll let them jump in.
I can start at the elementary school. Up until today, we hadn't probably had as big of an impact as perhaps maybe the middle school and the high school. However, today, right before the meeting, I was still contact tracing. So that was, maybe an example of what Renee talked about. I spent most of the day working with Chad and Christina on that. We had to, for today and moving forward here, we've had to pull all of our RTI staff to help cover in classrooms. So we are no longer offering RTI programming to our students. That's for reading and math. And then we also had to pull our EL teacher. We will be using her in another role, so we will, at this point in time, not be able to offer EL programming. We've also lost half of our one-on-one para support as of today. So what that means is we are having to shift some of our para support which doesn't allow for us to maximize our supports in the classroom for our other special ed students. So teachers are taking on more of that role in supporting our special ed students. We had to pull our school psych. We've had to use our behavior specialist, which then doesn't allow for us to complete our evaluations as in a timely manner as we had hoped on the special ed side. And then with our behavior specialists, that also impacts the support that we have regarding our behavior in our school. She's also the CRT and APAC person for the district. She was not able to meet her responsibilities in our district because of her need to be in a classroom today.
Jeff, can you jump in?
Getting there, sorry. Ben had texted me and said, do I want to go next? And I said, no, he could go next. But so then you surprised me there.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. So much like Melissa, I think the impact on staff, varies day by day a little bit. We have been pretty fortunate. We also have the opportunity in our building that we will not have subs because our teachers are able to put that content in Google Classroom. We're able to trust them to be in the comments, check in, and we do that. Where it becomes a challenge is we have had some cases of people just being just sick, but because of the world we're in right now, they have to take a COVID test, which means we need to have them out until they get their COVID test back, which leads to, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, we may have had 5 staff members out. And unfortunately, they all kind of landed in the same grade level. And so we had students out in the commons for multiple hours during the day. And so it just, that's where we see the effect most is when we have teachers from the same grade level, that it really affects a certain group of kids and is a challenge to them.
And I would echo what both Melissa and Jeff have said. We have, just to give you a sense, we have 11, the last couple days, we've had 11 staff members out. And just to remember, the middle school model is heavily dependent on having our paraprofessionals be able to service our students and supervise our students. So, and they've been doing a wonderful job of that, but as different people have had to be out for various reasons, some COVID related, some not COVID related, and even what typically in a normal year would be someone would just power through, and we've been very clear that they shouldn't be doing that this year, and so people are out for tests, and we're getting some people back. But when you have 11 people out of your building, 11 adults out of your building, it significantly impacts the programming that you're doing. And also it's very taxing on the staff that are there as well. So just I think across the district, and Melissa and Jeff talked about this too, but our teaching staff, our paraprofessionals, our office staff, everyone has pitched in and stepped up and helped out. So at the middle school, what has happened, our RTI staff has been pulled. So our RTI students, our most at-risk students, really have not consistently been served, this week, for sure. And, we get into our counselors, the middle school counselor is out on a maternity leave right now. She's not even factored into the 11, but, our social worker, our school psych, they've been covering classes. That means that the kids that they typically would be meeting with are not being served. We do some of the things similar to Jeff and the high school staff where we will not get a sub. And that was part of one of the pieces from the budget reductions last year that we were trying to save some dollars there. But that's taxing on our staff as well because they have to supervise and they're already spread thin. They're doing it and they're doing a great job, but we would not be able to still be in session had our teachers not stepped up. And I've had multiple principals reach out to me and ask, how are you guys able to do what you're doing? and it's because our staff are showing up. They're doing a wonderful job. So, that's the bottom line is every time that someone's gone, there's a domino effect across the state. There's a sub shortage, so we're pulling people from different areas, and every time you pull someone from one area, there's a domino and a ripple effect, and that means that domino and ripple effect means students are not being served there. I think we also need to realize that last spring we cut through the budget cut process, we cut a number of positions. So we already coming into this year, we're very lean, and it's being exasperated in this as well. So
Thank you. Chad, you had something?
Yeah, I forgot to. Sorry about this, everybody, and I forgot to kind of explain when we were going through just the COVID dashboard and so forth. As I wanted to share as of yesterday, it doesn't include today, which today was a crazy day for us at the elementary school. But as of November 11th, for students, we have 24 total student cases. So that increased from 18 to 24 total cases as of yesterday, and 260 students needing to be quarantined. I also wanted to share that I did some data research and for just signs and symptoms and students who tested positive. We have had up to 315 students out on quarantine due to those signs and symptoms since October 26th. So I wanted to share that bit of information with you. Then also with staff, we've had a little bit of an uptick in that. And so we are currently at 26 staff needing quarantine since the start of the school year. So that has increased. So we've seen an increase in staff just that are showing signs and symptoms too. So sorry about that. I forgot to share that information previously.
The only other thing, Renee, I was just going to add to the subs, because at the secondary level, they are doing things a little bit differently with their subs. At the elementary school, we are still relying on teachers on call. However, that pool of substitutes has become very limited. There's a lot of subs that are choosing not to sub this year, obviously for various reasons, one of them being COVID. So even when we're reaching out to our regular subs or subs who have been in our building, we are not having the best of luck getting people to come in and cover. So that leaves us then to find subs within our own building. And fortunately, we work really well as a district team. So Ben and Jeff have always been so gracious to help offset our sub needs at the elementary by doing what they can to give some of their subs away to the elementary school, and they finagle what they can to do at their buildings to help cover at our site.
Thank you.
Just to mention with that though, if I can follow up, sorry.
No.
Every time that we shift something to the elementary, that impacts kids at the middle or the high school. So it's not that I don't want the public to have this perception that we have extra fluff at the middle and high school buildings. It means that kids are not going to be served in some form or fashion.
Thank you, Ben. Hope, let's go to the next slide, slide 17. This isn't the conversation that I want to have. This isn't the conversation that any of us want to have. Based on our local COVID data, with community spread being so out of control, and just our challenges with staffing issues, we do need to shift our learning model here to best support our staff and students in this safe learning environment. I'm going to have Melissa jump in and share the plan for K4. Jeff will follow with the plan for 5-8, and then Ben will follow with some of the updates that we have in relation to some of our most fragile learners. Slide 18, Melissa.
I had to turn my microphone back on. As I'm looking at, we've vetted these plans, just to kind of preface things here. We've vetted this through a lot of conversations with our staff. And so as we're presenting this, just know that, we've done, I think, a really nice job of trying to get feedback from all of our staff. And I think the thing that is challenging is that You know, the perspectives of our staff members and our preferences are all over the board. There are many staff who we all have absolutely been so grateful to have kids in our building as long as we have in regards to our hybrid in-person model. However, at this point in time, especially after talking with Renee today, we are at a place now at the elementary school where we are needing to make a shift due to our staffing resources. And so when we look at what that means for the elementary school, that means that we are going to do our best to take the time that we have before that shift to really go through things with our teaching staff and especially our students. For many of our students, this is the first time they're going to have devices going home with them to extend the learning at home. And so we have to make sure students and our families are prepared for having technology enhance their learning at home. So we're going to do the best that we can. I met with Stephen and Beth Dietl to make sure that we are getting everything ready on the tech side of things, because we are going to rely heavily on our Google Classroom and Seesaw platforms, our online platforms for instruction. Our assignments will be posted daily. Teachers will be, what we're hoping is that our schedules for our distance learning are going to do as much synchronous learning as possible. We learned from our distance learning experience last spring that the places we found the most success is when students and teachers were in live connection with each other. So we are also using our JVA model, which has been working really, really well. We had our JVA staff, our teaching staff, they facilitated a staff meeting last week on our professional day with the rest of our staff to talk through what their JVA model, their distance learning model looked like. And we are doing a lot of the things that have worked well and successfully for them now in our new distance learning model in our building. So our scheduling and what that means for our time with students and talking with our staff and with Erin, our Director of Teaching and Learning, it's most critical for our students to have synchronous learning with math and with literacy. So those are the times that we will be meeting with our students face to face. We also know that our social emotional learning is a critical component, our mental health. So we also want to make sure our morning meeting where we gather as a classroom community is a synchronous model. And we're also looking at then weaving in read aloud times as well as mindfulness. Anytime that we can provide those moments when our families can feel like our kids are still connecting with their peers and with their teachers is what we want to shoot for. So when you look at the rest of what the slide here says, some of the things that we're going to need to have to continue to think through is that intervention time and knowing that we're going to still need to have our case managers, RTI teachers, our classroom teachers to make sure that we are able to provide interventions and special ed services on site. That was part of the executive order. With that comes transportation and what's going to be needed and what we have to do to provide for those opportunities for our students to be on site. We also know that the executive order will require our teachers to have additional planning time to make all of those things work in our schedules. So that's embedded. Each morning we start our day off where teachers start in a collaborative mode and offer opportunities for them to meet. And then also Fridays is a really, to begin with, will be a flexible day for a lot of our professional development and planning and looking at what's worked this past week in distance learning, what do we need to shift, what are our families telling us, what are our students telling us, so that when we get further into that model, we can now use Fridays more of a true intervention day. But that's something that we're coordinating right now with special services and with Chad's support on what that looks like to meet the needs of our diverse learners. Any questions at this point in time for the elementary distance learning plan?
Actually, Melissa, I'd prefer to get through the slides and then go back if that's okay.
Perfect.
And just to be clear, because I know anybody streaming the meeting cannot see the slides, the recommendation is, and the shift for elementary will be to go K4 distance learning. And we will address the timelines in an upcoming slide. Jeff will have you shift to the 5 through 12 distance learning model as well. And then Ben will follow up with some of the shifts with the executive order.
The one last thing I want to mention for those people live streaming that can't see the slide that I just noticed I forgot, we obviously don't want to devalue all of our other content areas because those are of huge importance to our students and our families. So our specialist classes as well as our social studies and science courses will also be done, but will be taught in an asynchronous model where they will be videotaped. They will be available via Google Classroom so that families will be encouraged to participate in those. But we are still working out being able to have those teachers to be able to connect with students and families on projects that might be affiliated with those content areas, to make sure that we're still giving our students a wide range of learning opportunities, and we're not forgetting some of those really critical content areas that many of our students rely heavily on participating in.
Thank you, Melissa.
All right, are you ready for me, Renee, to talk about 512?
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ben, just if you can jump in as I'll talk about the high school and the middle school schedule and overarching themes there. So if you can help out in that piece, I'll talk about high school, and if you can add in the differences, because much like our students, they're just different students and have different needs. So though we try to keep things similar between our middle school and high school, there are just different needs for different age students. So we'll talk about those a little bit too. So first I'll just discuss the slide a little bit, and the proposal is for both the middle school and high school to go to distance learning also. Students in 5 through 12 will complete assignments that are posted on Google Classroom. We're going to spend time with our staff over the next week to come up with clear communication to our students and their families about where to look for the information. And I'm excited to do that workshop with our staff to make sure that we're as clear as possible on that. The district, or all of our assignments, will be posted daily with teachers, and teachers will be available to answer questions throughout the day. And one of the things that we will also be doing or recommending to our teachers is that they actually post the week's worth of work at the beginning of the week so students can see everything that they have laid out. It'll clean up their Google Classroom stream. That's probably getting into the weeds a little bit too much, but there are ways to make this more effective for students. At the high school, we'll offer synchronous daily course offerings in a block schedule. So just to try to help you visualize this, what it will mean is that the students will go to 4 different blocks per day. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, they will take their first, second, third, and fourth hour classes, and they'll meet in those classes synchronously, meaning there will be a Zoom that they will be in during those times. Teachers will be there with them. One of the reasons we went to this is from our learning experiences from our crisis learning last spring. What we found is that students didn't have enough structure in their schedule, and though we need to be flexible and understand that students have all kinds of different needs at their homes during this pandemic, we also wanted to give structure to our students to help them get up in the morning, get going, and get to some type of schedule. And we heard that that type of schedule worked well with elementary students and having that structure, and I believe it can work for everyone with that kind of output. Secondly, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they will meet with their 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th hour classes. And again, those will be synchronous. Staff may flip their classes, and so when students get into their class, they might already have had the, whether it be a Screencastify, the reading, the video, whatever it might be. When they get to class, they might be doing activities, a check-in, answer session. They might divide them into smaller groups and have them in different hangouts or classrooms to check in. And so just doing a lot of different activities to help them be ready for that day's lesson, or to help them support that day's lesson, sorry. One of the things that I already mentioned is just that belief that if we help our students next week learn those tools of Zoom and Google Classroom, we can go into distance learning much more prepared than we were last spring. The last thing I want to touch on, and Melissa talked about this a little bit, our JVA students at the high school level will maintain most of their classes in the same schedule, but due to when preps are and teacher workload, some students may have their class shifted a little bit. It might be at a different time or a little bit different day. So that's just something to be aware of. But our counselors will be working with each of those individual students to help them understand their schedule and walk through their schedule. I think at this point, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Bakeberg.
Sure, thank you. So I would just echo a lot of what Jeff said. The middle school will look a little bit different just because of the nature and the structure of our building. But I think the most important thing for the community to keep in mind, and for us as parents, many of us are parents that are speaking tonight, is distance learning that we're walking into now will look very, very different. Mr. Visner, would you mind muting? Thanks. Distance learning that we're walking into is going to look very different. It will be much more structured from our staff, and we learned a lot of really good lessons in our crisis learning that Jeff called it, and that's really what last spring was. So from a middle school standpoint, one of the things that we heard loud and clear is that we needed more live in-person instruction with our students and our staff. So Monday through Thursday, our students will walk through a schedule where they will have live instruction from their teacher. Now, the teachers are going to have the flexibility that they always have on how they deliver the content best for that day. So the instruction may be the teacher giving the math lesson or the social studies lesson, whatever it is, or it may be that they do it in a flipped model and the teacher is there to facilitate conversations with the students. So that will be Monday through Thursday, and they will walk through their exploratory classes and they will walk through their core classes as well. Friday will continue to be an intervention day. We found great success with that. And then we will also, one of the big things that is a hallmark of a middle school, but really in distance learning, we need to make sure that we maintain our advisory classes. And we've really had that community feel. If you would ask one of our teachers, if one of our teachers were on, they would say that they know their advisory kids really, really well. The rest of the students, they don't know as well, to be honest with you, because they're not in front of them every day, but their advisory kids, they know really well. So that's why we're going to be grouping our especially our 5th and 6th graders with their advisory group as they move throughout their day. And then our 7th and 8th graders will start their day with advisory because they know that teacher well, and then we'll move through that way and support them through advisory. There will be a heavy social emotional learning focus in advisory and a heavy community building focus in advisory in this distant learning. One of the more, I'm going to transition so you can go to the next slide, Hope. One of the more frustrating parts of last spring was not being able to bring our struggling students in. We had a number of staff members that would meet students around town so that they could give kids the support. I saw one of Mr. Visner's high school teachers meeting with the students socially distanced down by the log cabin downtown because we were told, and then we told our staff that they couldn't meet with students, which was frustrating to say the least. So I'm pleased to say that and the department and Governor Walz heard our frustration, and recently on November 5th, guidance came out that we can bring in students with disabilities, English language learners, students experiencing homelessness, students in foster care, and then there's the broad term of students academically struggling. And we are going to make sure that we are utilizing our facility and our staff to service our kids that are really struggling. So we're working with special services, with Mr. Williams and our staff to have structures and schedules in place. That will be a lot of the work that we're doing next week. But I'm excited that we're going to be able to really service the academic, but also the mental health needs of our students that are during this time, because that was the biggest concern that I had in distance learning. So, so what will happen? We'll obviously roll out the specifics of what is going to happen, but it will come from case managers, it will come from advisory teachers, counselors, and inviting students in so that they can get some help and support as we move through. And it will be more than just on Fridays. It will be throughout the week. Our staff will be on site throughout the week, and they will be on a schedule teaching from the building, and then we'll be supporting kids on site.
Thank you, Ben. Joe, next slide, Hope, thank you, 21.
Yeah, so we are going to attempt to finish the fall season, which includes high school volleyball and varsity football at this point. Varsity football is scheduled for next Saturday at Marshall, and the volleyball season does not wrap up until mid to early December. As far as winter sports, we're going to focus on high school, varsity, JV, and C athletics only, and most of our high school fine arts as well. Obviously, this is all subject to change based on guidelines and things happening. When we get to my report a little later, it's already feels like it's 2 months old. So it's constantly changing. And if you're following any of this on social media, there's games being canceled up until an hour before some of these football games. So we're playing a game of dodging it, but we're hopeful that we can finish our fall season and then get into winter.
Thank you, Joe. Erin, would you talk about phasing in and timelines?
Yep, so the timelines to transition to this distance learning model will follow the same schedule, primarily K4 and then 5 through 12. So the proposed plan has November, so we'll finish out this week as regularly scheduled. The next week, November 16th and 17th, will be student prep days. So students will attend school as normal and will really learn about the distance learning model. Principal Visner talked about that a lot, really teaching students K through 12, where will the class assignments be, how to operate Zoom more effectively, what the teachers are looking for during these virtual synchronous offerings, and really how to navigate the technology. And of course, at the elementary, that will be a huge focus, as some of the technology is newer to those younger students. Because grades 7 through 12 are on that rotating A-B schedule, really the only difference is on November 16th, for students 7 through 12, Group A will be on site for that preparation. And then on Tuesday, November 17th, Group B will be on site for that preparation. All right, so all those students will have that preparation time. Then November 18th through the 20th will be no school for students in grades K through 12, including JVA students. So that time will be used for staff to prepare, to make sure all the technology is in place. Staff have time to prep those distance learning lessons because it is a change from the current model. Professional development will be there to support staff as we're making this transition. And then on November 23rd, we will begin the K-12 distance learning model, and then JVA K-12 will resume on November 23rd as well in the distance learning model. And really this timeline allows for some key focus areas. Time for students and staff to prep for this change, allow parents time to prepare for this change, and really make it a safe transition for our staff and our students.
Thank you, Erin. Hope, can we go to the next slide, please? And so I think it's important for our public to know that we will continue to be monitoring to inform any future shifts. It's our job to monitor the community and school level impact of COVID-19. That is key to the governor's safe learning plan, and it's really key to all that we do in keeping our staff and students safe and healthy. We'll be continuing to review that on a weekly basis. We are always looking at our staffing and operations considerations. One of the key components within that executive order in prioritizing in-person instruction for some of our most fragile learners, again, is contingent upon that in-person setting being safe and healthy. So we have to continue to monitor, any of the challenges of COVID ongoing. And then also any recommendations from public health and the Department of Education inform that. We'll continue to monitor where we are at with that data. It will be important, and we'll be reaching out to our families as well to make sure that they are communicating with us ongoing. We need to keep on track with, any positive cases and all of those considerations, even while they're on distance learning. And our community can expect that mid-January, we will take a look at where we are with our community data and reevaluate and communicate any updates, whether that be things are looking really great and we're able to target a time that we can start to slowly transition students into a less restrictive model, or whether we will need to extend distance learning for any period of time. So it's important for our public to know that we continue to monitor ongoing, and we have some of those key timelines mapped out. Next slide, Hope. Another really important component to this is communication. And following this meeting, we will be sending out communication to our family on the learning model update. We will be sharing very soon the registration window for the second semester of JVA. We'll be collecting ongoing stakeholder input and feedback to inform our programming prior to a lot of these conditions really ramping up and changing very swiftly for us. We have begun working on a survey for our public and our staff to inform that programming and their needs. We will continue to work on that and engage our stakeholders in that. We will have some additional community communication coming out on athletics and activities, meals for students, Chromebook devices, kids company, and critical worker school age care as well. So I know that was a lot of information, and I will open it up to any comments or questions. Staff, feel free to take them as they are asked.
Okay, I'll open it up for discussion. This is probably a question for Stephen, but are you anticipating a big influx of students into Kids Company, and will they be able to handle it?
So I don't think Stephen is on this evening. He had another obligation, but yes, Stephen is at the table for planning.
Okay.
And is absolutely aware of the conditions that are coming forward, and he is already immersed in planning on how we can navigate that.
And I can answer too. We've started this is Jenna, sorry. From distance learning in the spring, we've kind of learned some of the things that worked and didn't work. And it will all be contingent on how well we plan and on how well our community fills out surveys, etc. So we have a good take on who's going to need care from us to us, so we can plan appropriately.
So are you anticipating that the kids that will be coming to Kids Company, they'll be doing their synchronous learning at Kids Company?
Obviously, we would attempt to do that as best as we can with the staff that we have. Also knowing that not all staff may be as well equipped or trained as their teacher or even maybe their parent, but we will try.
Okay, Connie?
This one would probably be for the other Stephen. Do we have enough hotspots and computers and do we have enough tools to give the families what they need?
Sure. So elementary devices, which was a big concern, 512, we're good. We got parts in, everything like that. We're very confident in 512. Elementary devices, what was it, about a month and a half ago, they've been using them on site. So yes, every student K4 has a device set for them, checked out to them. We did order additional hotspots Monday or Tuesday, I forgot the number, but those will be showing up shortly. And when I'm talking to my T-Mobile rep, he says their supply chain is solid still because the whole country is not moving distance like it did back in March. It was a very large increase. So he's not worried about us needing additional above this 20. So we're kind of, I mean, honestly, that 20 is somewhat of a grasp in the dark because of elementary students. There's multiple grades that have never gone distance or never with devices. So we'll kind of, as some of this communication goes out to families, those are the questions we'll ask to say, do you have home internet access, everything like that, so then we can plan and if we need to order additional ones as well.
Thank you.
Other discussion? Tom?
I do not support distance learning for all of these students. We talked about using a scalpel, and this program very much feels like we used a cleaver. I understand there was a lot of cases at the elementary school that, in staffing, that caused some changes in the model that was proposed prior to this. I think we could scalpel down, have an AB model for K through 8. And I even think there's some opportunity for in-person for the high school as well. I think this is a big jump from what we were just at, like I said, a cleaver. I think we have some opportunity to scale it down, take away some of the exposure for the contact or the conducting the disease from other people, lessen the impact, and then lessen the impact on our students as well. I think this distance learning is really going to hurt the students. Having no contact with their teacher other than virtual, being in their houses all day. We know we have a population of probably 15 to 20% of our students that need way more contact than they would be getting in this system. So I just wouldn't support a full distance learning for K through 12. At a minimum, maybe 9 through 12, and try to get the K through 8 in school sometime. But so I'm not supportive of this program.
I think for me, like, I certainly understand where Tom's coming from, especially with the youngest learners. You know, the value of having them in school is huge, but you know, I also think that we have to be able to staff our buildings, and that is key to both safety and, you know, maintaining social distancing and that sort of things. If you're down a significant percentage, I can see that challenge. You know, and the thing that's been difficult about this process is, you know, I don't know if we're 2 or 3 times the numbers originally that we thought that if we crossed a certain threshold, they were like the state was going to shut us down, right? So it's kind of a, you know, it's just a very difficult situation because there's going to be some people that want to, you know, obviously keep kids in school for the social and emotional reasons and like the safety reasons, right? Like, I mean, I just, you know, kindergarten through 4th grade kids, it's going to be very disruptive to people who, you know, don't have the luxury of staying home, that have to report to work or not working from home. So I think, you know, it's definitely a big step, right? I don't know. I've been pretty close to the discussions, the operational discussions over the last 2 weeks, and you know, clearly it's becoming almost untenable to operate on a daily basis in person just based on staff availability. So it's a difficult spot.
Can I just respond to the conversation here? We had talked about an ABC model at the elementary school, and we had talked extensively about it as an admin team, as a building. And I will say up until this last week, that was really a strong possible model that we felt was a great way to keep our students here at school for some of the time, but then acknowledging the fact that our staff shortage was causing us to have to make significant changes in our building that we weren't able to sustain with all of our students on site. What's transpired in the last couple of days, I want to say, Chad, this might be helpful for you to chime in. We have 21% of our staff out of the building as of today. That's a lot. And what that means is that the rest of the staff is picking up for the workload of that 21% out. And that's not sustainable for our staff any longer. And that breaks my heart to say that. But yet it also breaks my heart to see my staff walking around today trying to do the best that they can to provide a quality education. And it's getting really challenging to do that. And I was all in to make sure that we could keep our youngest kids in as long as we could. But the last 2 days has been really difficult to make that happen. And we are basically looking at next week, the timeline. I'm even nervous about being able to sustain our timeline to be here in person with regards to what we currently have going on in our building. Like I said, I was contact tracing till 6:15 tonight. I have to go back and start my day and do it again because we didn't finish it tonight. And that could mean tomorrow we're going to have potentially more staff out of our building. So it's 21% as of 7:43 tonight, and it could be more tomorrow.
So do we not utilize who is it, teachers on call, or do they just not have anybody available?
They don't have people available. We've even personally called people on their list, and the people have actually said, we are not interested in coming in to sub at this time.
And do we have our own list of local Jordan community members that have?
Yep, they're all on that list, Lauren. All of them are in ASAP, and those are the ones we typically go to first. We have lucked out. We actually had a staff member that had an absence needed that was not COVID related, that we are able to, thankfully Jeff had a new sub that started in his building that we were able to pull over to the elementary school that she's been now subbing for a decent amount of time. But we are not getting a lot of new people from teachers on call, and we are not able to get some of our current subs that we've relied heavily on in years past to come into our building.
I know you guys have worked so hard on the schedule and trying to figure it out, and I know, I mean, I too want the littlest kids that we can have in the building, because when we roll this plan out, who are the students that are going to sign up for Kids Co? Is it just the first responder students who are eligible, or is anybody eligible to sign up for Kids Co?
So anybody is eligible, but in terms of free, that's critical care, and that's defined by the executive order.
So do we run the risk of everybody saying, okay, school is closed, but now Kids Co is open, so we're just going to sign up for Kids Co?
I think that's always a risk, but Jenna, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Lauren, there are set requirements from the governor from his executive order, his previous one, as far as how many students we can have per staff. And there's different requirements for spacing when you are doing childcare compared to a classroom for instruction. Okay. So we won't be able to take everyone for those reasons. And then number two, it will all depend on staffing, schedules, utilizing additional para support. It's going to get a little dicey for scheduling reasons. So not everyone will even qualify or be able to come in.
Jenna, can I add to that? In talking with Jenna and Stephen, because the executive order also wants us to make sure that our most at-risk learners are able to come on site as much as possible to receive services, including special ed, 504 kiddos, and whatnot. We have to be mindful of the total facilities use if we are bringing some of those students back in that are most at-risk learners, we have to be able to prioritize those needs, but still acknowledge the fact that we have daycare needs as well. And so that's where what Jen is talking about, having those restrictions upon us, because we're also trying to honor the executive order of supporting students that we can bring into our buildings at that point in time, including the staff. We also have to acknowledge, that staff will still be expected to be on site to service some of those students in person.
And then I kind of wanted to touch base on the schedule, because I believe it was the kids are going to be out of school the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th. And then there's going to be the training for the kids. I think with those littlest learners, they're also going to be, how are we going to incorporate the parents? Because I think we're going to need some parental instruction or training for the kindergarten parents, the first grade parents, the second grade parents.
A lot of that training is currently housed on our website. So under if you're talking about like technology training as well, under technology support, Kelly Heyer made a great video, Google Classroom for grown-ups, that really walks parents through the different ways they can access Google Classroom. And then as we transition and the schedules are posted, we'll also use the website to post a lot of those for parents. This is where you can see this is what your students will be doing. And Kat has already started planning some of that on how we can offer that professional development for parents as we kind of go through this shift in learning model as well. And then the schedule has the students on site Monday, Tuesday for that prep time, and then the teachers.
So the students are on site Monday, Tuesday.
Yes.
They leave Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
Teachers are on site Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
Everybody comes back the week of Thanksgiving for Monday and Tuesday.
Nope, that's distance learning. That's where we will start our distance learning.
Okay, so then we start distance learning Monday and Tuesday.
Yep.
And then everybody's off again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so
To add to that, Aaron, Stephen Danlow referenced this earlier, with our K4 devices. Our littles obviously are more challenged to log in to a device. That in itself brings challenges. So we've done a really nice job of having our tech team be able to create QR codes that students use to scan in the camera of the device. And what we have planned is that Beth Beadle and Stephen and then our office staff at the elementary school are going to be creating cards that are going to go home and stay there that are called login codes. So what that means is that a student will have everything they need at home. It'll be the QR codes that they scan for programs they need to get into for Google Classroom. It'll be username, password. Those are things that we are prepping currently because we would have needed that regardless if it was our AB model we were shifting to or distance learning. So that's already in the works to plan and support parents with.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I'm just trying to visualize, I'm a parent of a first grader. I'm going to get up with my kid on that Monday of first distance learning. I'm going to open up their Chromebook, and what am I going to do? What do I do as a parent? Do
Yep.
I put that QR code in front and get them started? Do I sit next to them? I mean, that's just kind of how my mind is. Like, I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
I don't
and you'll
understand
be-
what a day in the life of a student.
Yeah, you'd actually be surprised, Lauren. I've been in classrooms now for the last couple of weeks with our students in kindergarten and first grade with their devices. Boy, kindergartners got it down packed. They're not going to be their parent to log in. They are doing it independently in their classrooms. They have stations set up where teachers are saying, all right, I'm going to work with kids over here. The rest of you are on your devices. You're doing what you need to do. And they do it all independently. They don't need any adult support. And we've been doing that for a couple of weeks already. So you'll be surprised that many of our kindergartners and first graders are going to be able to tell their parents what to do.
And how many hours of screen time are our littlest learners getting with this new model?
An hour and 20 minutes, if not maybe more closer to an hour. It depends on how long morning meeting will be and how long we want to do read aloud or mindfulness. Yep. And we are very strategic with that, which is why our core instruction is only 30 minutes screen time for math and 30-minute screen time for reading. And then it's more independent work, as well as times when parents can Zoom in with teachers. Teachers can Zoom with students based on their need. So we were very mindful and careful about that screen time.
And asynchronous doesn't mean that it has to be on the computer. So a lot of those activities won't be computer-based.
Remind me again what asynchronous
Not at the
is?
same time. Flexible.
Not live.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So then, Erin, could I ask, will like the elementary students, do they get packets or is everything on the computer? I mean, do teachers make like monthly packets or weekly packets of worksheets or anything like that, or is everything come off of their Chromebook?
It'll primarily be a combination of both. So some materials can go home with the students, all right, and then others will be based on the computer.
Let me ask the question a little bit different way.
Okay.
Are there kindergartners enrolled in JVA currently?
Yes.
Can you maybe describe, like, at a high level, what a typical day would look like for a JVA kindergartner so far this year? I think that would help.
Yep.
People.
I don't, Melissa, do you have the exact times?
I don't know, not exactly, but look and feel.
Yeah, it's actually,
similar.
it's what we've been modeling our current distance learning plan after is our JVA schedule. So typically our JVA kindergartners do a lot of their work on Google Classroom and Seesaw, but Mrs. Akis, our K1 teacher, our K1 JVA teacher, does do a lot of project-based learning activities as well that because she's a former kindergarten teacher and she's talked with our K staff and our first grade staff, they're very aware of the need to still do paper pencil with fine motor skills and those types of things. So she does a lot of things with taking sheets of paper that you have at home, things that don't require a lot of specific school supplies that they would need from home, but things that from school, things that they would be able to find in their own homes, so that we can make it equitable as well. Because we've talked a lot about in our staff meetings is that JVA was a choice that families made, and they had the resources and the supervision and the support to do that. So we have to now think about, in this distance learning model, we're going to have to make sure we're being mindful of the equity lens to look through as far as our families who may not have supplies to do things beyond just the device. Last spring, we had pickup for some of those things that we knew families might need at their homes. Our teachers were willing to do that again and to front load that even starting next week. That'll be a part of the conversation with our students. So if you look around, kindergartners, your desk and your table, here are the supplies that you need for learning at school. What do you think your learning space needs to look like at home? What are you going to need? What can you bring from school that you'll now keep at home to use there? So those are all things that we're going to be doing next week to help support that learning at home and not have it be only relying on technology.
Will we be recording the live sessions so that somebody could watch it later? One of the things I'm thinking about is if you have a working parent and a child needs to go to a grandparent or something and it's not feasible to work during the day, will they be able to get that same content?
Yep, absolutely. And that's part of the equity of distance learning, especially because it's not a choice. So those sessions can be recorded, and then students can access those at a later time.
Have we ever had instances in which we've had lots of employees out of the building at one time?
Not in my 20 years.
We've never had 20% of our staff out.
This is my 20th year, 19th, and it's never, no. I mean, the year of H1N1 was probably the, other biggest illness impact, and no, not even close to this level.
Well, and I think, I'm just going to speak from my heart. A lot of the subs that I see come into my buildings when they sign on are retired teachers. And I think of myself right now, that's not, if you need it for your income, yes. If you are doing it because you like doing it and you have a risk, you may not do it. And so I think that's where the line is getting drawn, is we've relied on the talents of our retired teachers, and they've given to us. And we're very appreciative of that. But I don't want to put them in danger either.
Yep, and those that are still willing to sub, I know I can speak, my dad has subbed every single day this school year. You know, between Shakopee and here, he subbed every single day. So, I mean, yeah, and he could some days take 50 different jobs almost, because between Shakopee and Jordan.
Melissa, I don't want to, this is maybe a little unfair to throw this out, but do you have any idea what percentage or what number of EL and SPED and challenge students we're looking at bringing in? And would it be on a daily basis, or do you have any idea on the numbers? I know that's not fair to throw that at you.
Chad and I are still working on that. And part of it is our special ed staff is doing a lot of revisiting of their IEPs and looking at service minutes. And because when we shift a model, they have to redo their paperwork to account for that change in a model. So until those things are done, we won't know exactly how often we're going to have students in. Yet, I think many of our special ed teachers would say they're hoping they can have them in as much as possible, because we also know that those students have unique challenges, even with technology, that it's just not the same as being face-to-face learning. Yet, it's hard because, you know, that disclaimer on the executive order that says bringing in students who are having academic challenges, that could be any kid at any given point in time. So it doesn't just need to be our at-risk kids, it could be any kid. And that's where our teachers are going to continue to monitor, collect data, talk with families, and try to make, whether it's a rotation or some sort of, you know, each week looks a little bit different based on that week's worth of information of how many kids we come in. So I can't fully answer it. I can tell you what I'm thinking in my head right now, Deb, but a lot of it's going to be determined with what we're going to do here in the next week after we look at all of our paperwork.
And Ben,
So I don't know if you want to add to that.
thanks.
Yeah, no, well stated, Melissa. The biggest thing is, again, is going to be individualized basis. And we have to look at the total number of students that will need to be on site, the teacher's workload, and it's not going to be based upon how many minutes that the student have on their IEP. It's going to be individually based on what does that student need in order to be successful while we're experiencing this learning. So Melissa hit it on the head, exactly what we need to do, and we're going to be working hard in order to figure that out and create a good schedule in order to meet the needs of all students.
So Chad, you were echoing a little bit there. So I believe what Chad was saying is that it's not only dependent on the total number of students, also looking at the need. So some students might need more on-site instruction than another student. So really looking in the IEPs, and that'll dictate the amount of time those students are on site.
The other thing that is interesting to just note is because I'm pulling RTI teachers right now to be in classrooms, because I'm pulling the EL teacher, and because we don't have one-on-one para support or other services for our students from their paras, if we go into this distance learning model, those kids will actually get more service time than what they're getting right now, because we don't have the staff to help support those kids, because the staff's going elsewhere to help in the school. So it's kind of crazy to think that a distance learning model is going to provide more opportunities to service those kids, but it really actually will.
And I'm guessing, Ben and Jeff, that the same pretty much applies to you guys in your building, looking at those models.
Yeah, we would look at just based off of our availability that we have, serving as many students on site as we can. Similar to Melissa, we will be able to serve our most at-risk kids in a they'll get more services in a distance learning model. And then also, one of the things that we've heard pretty consistently is parents want more live instruction, especially in grades 7 and 8. And our teachers have been doing that. They've added more live instruction in, but kids in this model will get more live instruction than, especially in grades 7 and 8, than they're currently getting now. So just something to keep in mind. Hope, I don't know if it's just me, but there's a pretty bad echo. So I don't know if there's something we can do with that.
Steven's on it.
Deb, or Renee, I guess, but what is Southwest Metro doing? Are they?
Southwest Metro just announced yesterday they're going total distance learning, because most of their member districts are distance. They're by program, and by program I'm guessing that they mean like the automotives class and some of the hands-on classes. They're going to leave that up to the individual department and work with, Renee, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're going to work with bringing those kids in when they're able to. But basically Southwest Metro is going total DL.
You're accurate, Deb.
And just on the Southwest Metro, only because I know I have a grandson, when one person gets sick, you quarantine how many different kids in how many different schools? Because they had a case in the ag program, and I think it was 6 or 7 different school districts kids were hit. So you got to think then that brought that back all to our districts. So I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. I guess, we all know this is not ideal, but I think it's the reality that we're living in. One of the fears that I'm just going to share from my heart is I think it will really be good for our struggling students, for our EL students, for our SPED students. We know that our overachievers and our top learners will probably handle this very well. It's the kids in the middle that I worry about.
Yeah, on a personal note, Deb, as a parent, which Ben, alluded to earlier, many of us here in this meeting are parents as well, and having a student that I would categorize as that, I think that's something that we're trying to make sure that the models are going to work for all kids, because we can't forget any kid in these models. So I think it's great that you brought that up and you made that public statement, because I know that just personally, I would want that for my kid, and I want that for everybody's kid. We need to make sure we're not going to lose sight of anybody.
Right.
And within the model, there are, the teacher's protocol in place that as soon as you see a student, making that slip or not showing up to those Zoom meetings, the next step, who would you go to? In the middle school, each grade level has a specific contact of who to go to, and then it would go, through the MTSS support staff and all of that. So, protocols are in place to try to mitigate that as much as possible, because it's definitely been a concern on all of the planning.
Thanks. Thank you.
What percentage of students do we think will have little to no contact actual teaching with going to a full distance learning?
Like the synchronous teaching?
Any of it. I know last year in distance learning, Minneapolis claimed that they had about 11% participation. What did we have for participation last spring, and what do we expect? How many kids will we lose by going to distance learning?
Well, last spring, the model was very different regarding the asynchronous offerings. This model, because keeping equity in mind, last spring with the crisis learning model. So this model is completely different. The synchronous offerings will be offered every single day, K-12, all right, with attendance taken at all synchronous sessions. So if students aren't joining, there is that data point to make that immediate contact with the families. So of course, the goal is to get 100% of students on board, and if that's not there, the protocol is in place to make those phone calls, make that contact, right? Just the model is so different, it's hard to compare the two, because there wasn't that synchronous especially at the high school, middle school level, that synchronous aspect, because of keeping equity in mind. And that was based on guidance from MDE at the time.
So I think that would be one data point that you guys need, I'm obviously not gonna be on the board, but to keep an eye on, because we're gonna lose some kids that it's not gonna be zero. Answer's not gonna be zero.
You're right.
And
Yep.
so we're really trading one thing for the other. I know, Ben talked about it before, but we're trading, putting all these kids in distance learning for losing how many kids? I really think we could cut to an AB schedule. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but an AB schedule, because then you are reducing the load on the teachers and the faculty, and that's what we're talking about here. The reason we're going into full distance learning mode is because we're worried we're not going to have enough staffing. Going into an AB reduces that, not in half, but reduces that sum, so you don't have that staffing load that you have to maintain all the time. And I think we need to keep a close eye on the data points, because we are going to lose some students, and there's going to be some serious drop in learning, I think, for some of these kids. Like Ryan talked about, you have two parent or single family households where these kids are having to go into daycare. They cannot get logged in. Mom or dad comes home at night trying to give them dinner, and they're logging in at 8 or 9 o'clock at night trying to do their stuff. The financial impact on these families, going to full distance learning, now having daycare 5 days a week instead of possibly 2 to 3 in an ABC model. I think it's really devastating to our community. And again, I don't think it's using a scalpel. I think it's using a cleaver.
Tom, can I ask, where do you think they're gonna go? Everything around us is closed.
Where do I think they're gonna go? What? I think they're just gonna fade off into nothing. The kids that we don't make contact with, I think they're just gonna be at home and not have any learning whatsoever.
Playing video games full time.
I'd like to jump in there,
We know some
just
of
if
them
I
are just gonna be
can.
surviving.
I just want to jump in there because here's the thing. Tom, I have so much respect for you, and I have so much respect for that perspective, and you and I have talked on and off this week. I 100% agree. We do not want a repeat and cannot have a repeat of what occurred last year in crisis learning. And I'm sorry there's an echo right now with this, but I'm going to just proceed. It's not our intention, nor will it be our practice, to just let a kid fade off into not being involved. The model we've developed, that the teachers have worked on, that the staff has worked on, because that's been our job this entire year, is to plan for multiple challenges, is to make sure that we are monitoring student attendance, make sure we're reaching out to families, and to make sure that our counselors are working with kids. If they're not showing up, we are going to find them. They will not fade off. And I'm so glad you said that, because I think it's important for our public to know that this will be totally different. There is an expectation. And as we meet roadblocks, you mentioned potential roadblocks at childcare, then that's our job to make sure that we are putting procedures in place to mitigate those challenges. So I felt it was important. I want to thank all of you. This is really a hard conversation. This is the last thing we want to do, but we're there. And I do appreciate all of you as board members being so present. There have been incredible questions this evening. Very good recommendations and very good suggestions. And for this time period, as we're in distance learning, we commit to do our best to make sure we're engaging our students in a way we didn't last year in crisis learning, and to make sure that we are really providing good education for our kids and good support with a focus on mental health, because that's a critical component of this. We will reevaluate again, and we will continue to monitor that data, and hopefully mid-January things look amazing. I will be the first one when our community brings those numbers down and things look different. I will be the one leading the charge to start bringing kids back to school. But we have to have a significant change to be able to do that. So that's where I think, that's where I need to be really clear. I'm pleading with the community as well. We have to pay attention to the health and safety protocols. We owe it to our kids. And so we want to do right by our students and right by our staff moving forward. And we commit to doing our best to do that. Deb, if there are no other questions.
Renee, can I just jump in on one last thing with that? I'm sorry. I'll make it brief. One thing, and I think Tom, I hear you too. And I think one plea, and probably our most at-risk families aren't watching this right now. But if people aren't connected with them, if they need help in any way, we just beg for them to reach out to us. I know that Melissa, Ben, Jenna, myself, Aaron, Renee, everybody's here for our students and for our families. And if there's any ways that we can help them, any of our families, we want to know about it. And we will do our best to try and meet their needs in whatever way we can. But I think the more that we can get it out there, as Renee said, to the community that, hey, let us know what you need. That's all.
Any last thoughts or comments from anybody?
I think we need to be proactive and also reach out to those parents, because we know who our at-risk kids are.
Yep.
So we also, we need to get people to ask them to ask for help, but people don't like to ask for help.
Yep.
Even students don't like to ask for help. So I think we need to make sure that we're reaching out and connecting with those parents and those kids.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, that came up in conversation at our staff meeting, Lauren, and one of the things that we talked about is, we probably have an idea from last spring, the families that struggled with distance learning, yet things out in the community and in our state are also very different than what they were last spring. We have families who maybe now don't have a job and did before, and vice versa. We might have families who, were in really good or were not in good circumstances, but are in a better place now. So we just have to try to use as much real-time data as we can. And we're lucky enough to have staff who have a really good pulse on that, from it being our social worker, equity specialists, CRT specialists, or counselors. We do have a lot of staff, along with our teaching staff, who already know those families and who they are. We were very lucky to have the models in place as long as we have, where we have been able to establish those relationships this year already to know who those families are. So we have to use that now to our advantage in helping them in this learning.
I just
Thank you.
want to clarify my last thoughts. My frustration is completely with this disease. It is not with our staff. I've said it numerous times in this meeting and in front of everyone. I will put the staff of district in Jordan, Minnesota, up against any staff in any other state. 100% any single time. I think, as Ben's echoed and Jeff's echoed, and Melissa has, our staff steps up and shows up and does their job. And that's from at any level. At any level. I will put our entire faculty up against anyone else.
I completely.
My frustration is 100% with the disease and the toll that it takes on our students and on our staff. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not aimed at anyone.
I completely agree with that. And also, like, we've been able to get as far as we've gotten, right? Because of the resolve of the staff and the admin team, to give it a go. And so, I guess my only last thoughts, I guess, of the night are just being diligent and aggressive in trying to find where that spot is that we can get kids back into the classroom.
Yes.
And certainly making that not one day longer than it has to be.
I agree.
I just wanted to say, sorry, this is Sandy, and I know there's still an echo. I just wanted to say, I just really appreciate all of the staff, all of the administrators who I know have been just working their butts off. And I know that this is not where anybody wants to be right now. I just feel that this is what needs to be done right now. And I know that, we can't have school if we don't have staff. And I feel that This is helping, hopefully keeping our community more safe, our kids safe, our staff safe, our families safe. And I just really appreciate all the hard work that has gone into this. And I just want to extend my full support to and offer any help that we can provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess next steps are this will go out to the community and to the parents and the staff, of course. So, okay, thank you for your work on this, you guys.
Thank you. You're an awesome board. Really appreciate you all.
Okay, on to superintendent's report.
I actually do not have any additional information in my report. My report was sharing where we were at in the process with learning model and an enrollment update. So no report from me.
Okay, Jeff, any highlights you want to share?
Sorry, for some reason I struggle to find the unmute button. I just one thing. I'm usually the one that says as reported, but I really want to share that I'm so thankful that through Mr. Perkel's hard work, we were able to have a bit of a homecoming and a little bit of normalcy for our juniors and seniors with a homecoming royalty and coronation and a powder puff football, a powder puff volleyball, and have a little bit of normalcy for one day. And to see the smiles on our kids' faces for that day was truly, it just truly made my heart happy. So I want to just say a public thank you to Joe and to everybody that supported that, from our school to our administration. So thank you.
Thank you. Ben? Any highlights?
All right, I was struggling like Jeff was there. The only thing I would say is we did a survey. It's more of a thank you to our families. We did some feedback pieces, and parents were able to give shout outs to staff members. And then I've been sharing those in the news and notes. So it's just been a really positive piece of hearing actually from families about the positive things that are happening. So really just, I have one or a couple in my report, but really just a thank you to the community, and really just using technology and social media in a positive way.
Thank you. And I love the choir samples you shared in your report. Melissa?
Yeah.
The only thing is that comes to my mind just to add, it's amazing that our staff and our students still continue to give back and to serve other people. You know, we had a ton of you probably saw the video that our building made for Veterans Day. We made Veterans Day cards to send to servicemen and women. Those will be mailed out next week with care packages. Student Council wants to be able to do like a sock drive for the month of December. So all of these things that we want to teach kids, it's not just about us, it's about serving others. Those are still things that are happening in our building throughout all of this crazy time. And that's so amazing that our kids are still getting that type of learning happening in our schools.
Thank you. Dr. Yamlin?
So the only thing to add really has to do with introduction to education. So we did the class through the Summit Academy. We did move up the field experience as we started to, normally the students are in the authentic classrooms in their student teaching experience for the entire month of December. But as we started to see the numbers rise, Ms. Jans and I were like, no, we need to get them in the classrooms immediately. And just a huge thank you to the elementary and middle school teachers who welcome our students into the classrooms. It's been a very interesting, authentic learning experience for them. But for those students who go on and pursue a career into education, talk about a crash course and what education can be, and walking around and getting to see the students, my students work with the younger students, has been fantastic. So that was the only addition.
Great, thank you. Mr. Perkel?
I will be the as presented guy this evening.
Okay. Dependent on the high school league's meetings, right?
Yep, we hope to continue. We've got a playoff football game next Saturday. Volleyball team is 5 and wait, they will go to 6-5 if they can beat Mount West Tonka tonight. That'd be pretty cool in the new conference to have a winning record after this evening, and hope to be able to continue and get the season in.
Great, thank you. And I don't believe Stephen is on with us. Jana, did you have anything that you wanted to highlight?
Sorry, trying to find my mute. I don't have anything to add. I think Stephen just wanted to add they will continue with community ed programming and classes, etc. for the CIRC. That didn't come up in our original conversation about K through 12, but they will keep things open as long as they're allowed to. Also, preschool will continue to run as normal as long as we are able to as well.
Good, thanks. And
The birthday girl.
I don't have anything unless you have questions for me.
No, just happy birthday.
great job, Cap, thank you. Let's see, where are we at here? Andrea, I don't know if Andrea's on with us. Are you there, Andrea? Nope. Chad?
I do not have anything to add. If anyone has questions for me, that's all I have.
Okay. And Tim? I don't know if Tim's on either. No, okay. On to school board and committee reports. I don't think, did we have any meetings actually? Anybody? I didn't.
I didn't.
Since
I
our
didn't.
last meeting. Rob or Sandy? Did you have any committee
APAC was
meetings?
canceled today, so it'll be moved to next week.
What
So
was
we
that?
did not. APAC was canceled
Mhm.
today, so we will meet next week.
Okay. Rob, you didn't have booster or anything, did you? Okay,
Next Wednesday.
okay. Okay. Ryan, anything?
I think we've said everything that needs to be said. I guess just, whether you agree with the direction we're going or not in the community, just extend a little grace to everybody that's trying to make this work. This is a difficult situation for everybody.
Yeah. Lauren?
Just thank you to the entire staff of the district for stepping up and being there for kids and doing their best.
Connie?
Echo the same thing, but I really want to give the community permission. If you need help, you have to ask, because we are, we're going at it the best that we can do, but we can't know what we don't know. So in the best interest of the safety of the teachers and your kids, ask if you need help, because we'll do the best that we can to make it work.
And I guess I just want to add one thing to that. When you ask, you should really call either the middle school, the elementary school, or the high school, because they will be the ones who are able to answer your questions. So you should come to the school district to get your questions answered.
Not Facebook.
I just couldn't, I just couldn't go there, but
I'll go there for you.
not the Jordan Mamas page,
Right,
please.
right.
Armchair quarterbacking on Facebook, it does not help anyone.
Right.
The board reports that I had was, I got to see some football, which was fun. I got to some outdoor. I watched some streaming online. I watched some volleyball streaming. Saw from a distance a little bit of cross country running. So, again, those social things and those sports are important for the kids. We're crossing our fingers on basketball and the winter sports, but again, echoing what Jeff said, that Friday that was put on for the juniors and seniors. If you've ever heard my daughter tell a story, she takes as long to tell a story as the event actually occurred. And it was really fun to hear the excitement and the details on everything that occurred that day. They just had a blast, and it was really nice to have for them a normal day, a normal experience. So kudos to you guys for doing that.
Hey, Tom. first kid I've ever seen with multiple lacerations from diving on the turf trying to tackle kids in a flag football game. Also,
Yeah, I have pictures of her. Yeah, she looked like she played an actual tackle football game. It's happy.
And I don't have anything either, other than echoing my thanks to the administrative team and to the full staff of Jordan School District, and just to ask for grace from our parents. We know that parents are gonna be, that they're all over the board. There will be some that will be very happy with this decision, and some that will feel very challenged by it. And we just need you to know that we understand that. We're here for you, and we will do our very best. So, Sandy? You're muted, Sandy.
Sorry. I guess I would just echo what everyone else has said. Thank you so much for all the hard work, as I already said. And I do hope that people will ask for help and reach out. I definitely know this is challenging for everyone. No one wants to be in this situation. But I also ask for the community's help to try to get our numbers down so that we can return. And there are things that you can do, hopefully, to try to do that. So follow the guidelines, and hopefully that will help bring our numbers down, because everybody wants to get kids back learning. That's the goal. I mean, and they'll be learning in distance learning, but everybody wants to get back to kids being in school. And the only way we can do that is to have everybody do what needs to be done. So, and just thank you so much to the staff and the families and everyone, and just bear with us.
Thanks, Sandy. Rob?
I echo the sentiments of everyone. Switching gears a little bit and maybe a little bit on a lighter note, I just wanted to extend a congratulations to Sarah Lane and Molly Moniak. Anytime that you're willing to step up and serve in a community position like a school board, city council, et cetera, it's one of the things that is really a great thing to be able to do, and definitely commend both of them and wish them all the best as they serve this next term. And so I'll have other opportunities to say goodbye to everybody, but wanted to make sure to extend my best to both of them.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, our next meeting is November 23rd. It will be a workshop meeting. And with that,
Tom?
Move to adjourn.
Second, roll call?
Deb Polly?
Yes?
Tom Vogel?
Yes.
Sandy Burke?
Yes.
Connie Hennon?
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen?
Yes.
Rob Langheim?
Yes.
Ryan Daynard?
Yes.
And Rob and Sandy, I believe you'll have to stop in and sign the canvassing. That has to be signed by all board members, so you'll have to connect with Hope somehow.
I think I already got it signed.
Tomorrow morning.
When does it have to be in?
It just needs to be signed.
Okay.
No
Yeah,
deadline.
you got my signature, right, Hope?
Yes, I did.
Okay, perfect. Have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Take care,
Good
Rob.
night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'll be in tomorrow morning. I hope to be in tomorrow morning around 10.
Okay.
Are your feet sweaty?
No, I'm freezing. I'm still being
I
fine.
was gonna say, I was
My
wondering.
fingers are still just frozen.
Oh.
It's only like 17 degrees.